Hey everyone, InfiniteCaz here, and welcome to another Splatoon 2 weapon guide. Today, we will be going through possibly one of the most played and most hated weapons in the game, that being the Kensa Splattershot Pro. This weapon is a prime example of a jack of all trades, in the sense that it can fit into any team comp and work decently. The K Pro is known for its decent range, great kit, and high damage output, and it really doesn't have any glaring weaknesses. This is either a good or an awful thing, depending on what side of the K Pro you are on. And while it's not seen in every match anymore, it's still a great, versatile midliner that's worth picking up. With that out of the way, please like and subscribe as it really helps me out, and let's get right into it. So as I already touched on, the K Pro is a midline, with a decent range of 70, and that enables it to outrange a good chunk of the weapon pool. The Pro has a base damage of 42, which makes it a comfortable 3-shot without any gear abilities. The Pro does have a slower fire rate than many Slayers, but more than makes up for that, which we will touch on later. As well as having a 3-shot, the Pro is very accurate for a shooter. It takes 24 shots for it to reach minimum accuracy, so if you need to hit shots effectively, going in and out of ink helps to improve your aim. The Pro's fire rate is decent, but because the drops are small, coupled with this, the Pro's paint is lacking. Its spread is not very consistent, and you will struggle to outpaint the vast majority of shooters in a match. You do need to rely on your team to outpaint the opposition, but if you are on challenge, you can paint an area easily enough. Another advantage of the Pro is its fall off, which reaches a minimum of 21 damage, a great asset to pick off people who try to flee from your line of fire. Lastly, what about the Pro's ink consumption? Each droplet takes 2% of your ink tank, meaning that you can fire 50 shots without a refill, more than enough to get the job done, but nonetheless, it's vital to keep track of how much ink you have. After a quick outline of the Pro's stats, I hope you understand how this weapon works, but what about how it plays? As a midline, you will not be solely focusing on kills, but at the same time, you can play offensively. Because range-wise, you are middle of the pack, you need to understand how to cope with long and short-ranged weapons. With Slayers and such, if you're aware of their whereabouts, outspacing them isn't that hard. You need to be sure you keep out of their range, as you have a hard time beating a high-damage Slayer face to face. With long-range weapons, you need to make sure to keep out of their sights for as long as possible. You can easily get trapped if you're low on ink or in a bad spot. Before engaging, make sure you have a healthy supply of ink. You wouldn't want to get trapped in a Splatling's fire with an empty tank and nowhere to run. If someone spots you, it's best to back up and move away from their fire, and watch them to see if they keep an eye on you. It's more than possible to get a quick splat on them, maybe with a bomb to trap them, followed by a few shots to complete the remaining damage. What about the K Pro's kit? It comes with Splat Bomb and Booyah Bomb, a very formidable combination. Splat Bombs are very versatile, and are a one-hit KO at close range, so you can either bait people into your radius, or use them to change your opponent's movement. Splat Bombs work best in tight areas, where your opponent has fewer options for their movement. You can throw them behind you, which forces them to move into your line of fire, or in front of them, which pushes them back. Your special, Booyah Bomb, which takes 210p to fully charge, is your key to paint. It can cap a zone or a key area of the map, as well as assist your team who may struggle with coverage. A Booyah Bomb can be offensive or defensive, making it very adaptable in most mapping modes. This is very similar to the main and sub, making everything about the K Pro adaptable, just like a midline should be. Like every weapon, your playstyle is key to success. The K Pro fits into teams as a midline, but that doesn't mean you can't change up mid-game. If you decide to run an ankleless comp, the K Pro can be great as a defensive option due to its kit. If your Slayer is down and you need to push up further, you can aggress most weapons with ease. Now let me tell you about the best part of this weapon, and that comes with main power-up. This ability increases the damage on the Pro, and with 3 mains and 4 subs, you can deal 49.9 damage per shot, meaning 2 hits takes away all but 0.2% of your opponent's health. This allows you to 2-shot opponents in so many situations, reducing your kill time to the equivalent of a gal, just without the poor accuracy. If your opponent is in your paint even the slightest, they should be more than damaged enough to two-shot. You can also combine this with your splat bomb. However, you need to be cautious of your ink consumption, as splat bombs cost 70% of your ink tank, meaning you have 15 shots left after throwing one. Because so much of your gear goes towards main power-up, it's hard to invest in your ink tank. The Pro's ink consumption is one of its biggest weaknesses. However, if you know how to conserve your ink, it's not too hard to manage. In case you were unaware, your ink tank is a good gauge of how much ink you have left, and if the little light on top of it is on, you can use your sub-weapon. Losing track of this can cause you to get killed easily, as your main weapon is so ink heavy compared to other shooters. If you find yourself out of ink and in a sticky situation, it's best to jump out, either to spawn or a fellow teammate. The time it takes to jump refills about half of your ink tank, and in most cases it's a better option than trying to outrun a deadly opponent. You could throw a bomb at your feet providing you have the ink for it, but at that point you're better on engaging with them, as the bomb should make the kill an easy two-hit. The K-Pro also excels at pushing the objective due to its versatility. While you are far from a true support, you and say an armour weapon combo off each other really well, especially if they are a strong painter. With an armour, you can play very aggressive, but never overextend. If you push up too far, you can struggle to get out of a situation, and getting pincered is certain death. Your strafing speed is also very low, so it's best to use the ink to your advantage. Because backlines are usually further back, staying out of the ink can lead to you getting noticed and picked off before you get close enough to hit them. With splatlings and other heavy weapons, a well-positioned bomb forces them to move, disrupting a potential charge and allowing you to get a pick. Taking their longest range weapon out is a huge advantage, and allows you to be more aggressive deep in the enemy lines. Providing you can move around adequately, you should have no issue getting a pick or two from this. However, you can also play the Pro very defensively. You may want to stay in a zone or watch a specific area of the map for people to pick off. Because of the Pro's high damage, people will struggle to approach you if you have the range. So how good is the K-Pro in splat zones? While its kit is great for the mode, the main issue you have is your lack of paint. When in control of the zone, I would play more defensively, looking out for flanks and such. You do well picking off people that try to push back in alone, and paired with a Slayer, you can lock down control and stop the enemy team from getting the objective. Booyah Bomb is great for capping the zone, and is cover for your aggressive teammates when taking back control. But without your special, you will have a hard time outpainting another weapon for the zone. In tower control, the Pro can do a good job at riding the tower, depending on what weapons the rest of your team are going. Your accuracy is very useful when getting picks on and near the tower, and Booyah Bomb is perfect to target the tower in overtime. The only issue you may have here is combating very aggressive teams, but with the right support, it's no issue. With Rainmaker, the Pro is just decent. You can do a good job at picking off the Rainmaker in a pinch, as well as dealing with overly aggressive opponents. Depending on who is carrying the Rainmaker, you can either support them or push up with a teammate, using your Booyah Bomb to give cover. In clams, I really enjoy using this weapon, especially when running an anchorless comp. The K-Pro's decent defensive capability can adapt when the enemy team is pushing the basket, but with your Booyah Bomb, you can bind well when pushing up. In such a mobile game as clams, map control is key, so while you will struggle with paint on most occasions, with support, you can easily lock down control and assist more mobile teammates when scoring clams. As a quick summary, the K-Pro really can play how you want. But to master the weapon, you need to be aware of its lack in mobility and poor paint coverage. As it's a midline, the way you approach slays and backlines varies. So in every match you need to be prepared to either go on the offense or defense, depending on what your team needs. Play the Pro right and you are a formidable force. Play it wrong and you can spend the whole match picking the wrong fights and feeding, costing you and your team the win. The K-Pro is very dependent on gear, that being main power up in particular. To reach 49.9 damage per shot, you need all 3 mains and 4 subs that are taken up by MPU. Without this, the K-Pro plays so differently. You could run less, but the whole point of MPU is for a 2-shot, and if you're not going to run the amount needed to get at least 49 damage, there is no point using it at all. And at that point you're playing a different weapon, as a 3-shot Pro is much less aggressive. The MPU means you only have 5 subs to spare, so I would fill them with abilities that work well with only 1 or 2 subs. A sub of Special Saver brings your special reduction from 50 down to 40% when you die, which is so helpful considering the Pro isn't a great painter. A sub of Bomb Defense DX is also super helpful, as you will often take damage from bombs when pushing in due to the fact that you're slower than most midlines. Depending on how often you jump out, a sub or 2 of Quick Super Jump can come in handy, as well as a touch of ink resistance so you don't take instant damage from your opponent's ink. Investing a sub or 2 in mobility can also be helpful, either that or some ink saver main to give you a small boost in fights. The mains that MPU take up means that abilities like Stealth Jump, Object Shredder can be used, but that leaves even less room for other abilities that may benefit you. Abilities that are not worth running are ones dedicated to sub-weapons, as well as Special Charge Up, as you need a decent amount to make good use out of it. Quick Respawn is also a no-go, as trading is very frequent, so you will rarely make use out of the few subs you could use. Because MPU is so important to the K-Pro's playstyle, the gear you use isn't very variable. However, the subs you have available are more important than ever, and you need to prioritise what extra benefits will suit you and your playstyle the best. What can I say here that I haven't already touched on? Just that the K-Pro is very strong. People may say that it takes no skill, and while I can admit it's far from challenging to play, it just works. Why put loads of effort into a weapon that you can only use in a few situations compared to the K-Pro, which is fairly easy to pick up and much more versatile? If you are looking for a midline that can be used anywhere, with a great kit, I would take a look at the K-Pro. People may hate you for playing it, but if it works and you're winning matches, that's all that matters in a competitive environment. That's all for now, and thank you so much for watching until the end. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe as it really helps me out. I hope I could teach you something new, and with that out of the way, I will see you all next time. Bye!